Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Keep Swinging. And today's guest, man, we got my boy from Middletown, New Jersey. That's right, James Van Riemsdyk. He is an NHL veteran, 10 plus seasons in the National Hockey League, and he's here with us today. JVR, dude, thanks for taking your time out in Lake Tahoe to do this podcast.
All righty, yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's always nice to connect with the old Middletown crew and CBA connection there. So looking forward to it.
That's right. We go way back, and it's cool how we've been able to stay in touch throughout this entire time. And also, you're playing a sport, and I'm still involved in sports, so it's cool to be in this journey and ride together. So, yeah, we got to keep it going. I know I said you're a 10-plus year vet in the NHL, but you got a lot more time, and hopefully I do too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to keep riding this thing out as long as I can until they basically kick me out. So hopefully that's a bunch more years I got left in me.
Awesome. Well, before we get to it, I got to ask you the most important question out of all of them. You ready?
Ready for it.
All right, sweet. In 2018, you got the Chipotle card, unlimited burritos, bowls. Does that thing re-up every year? Is this working?
So it's kind of funny. So that was supposed to be for, I think, basically a year, but I think it kept working like a little bit after. So it didn't just stop right on that 12 month kind of from the year later or whatever. So it just kept going and I kept riding it out. And now it finally stopped working a little less than like 2 years after, but that was definitely a nice perk to have. That was another perk of playing in Toronto, meeting some cool people in a bunch of different areas of businesses and things like that. So that was a lot of fun.
So you got a nice 2-year run out of this card. What was your go-to order? And did your boys always try to get you to drag you to Chipotle and put in a good order for them?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's just one entree per day. So they had that figured out because I'm sure they knew that if anyone found out that their buddy had that card, they'd be making them go on runs as much as they could. But yeah, my go-to was pretty standard, just the basic chicken bowl with green salsa, cheese, sour cream, and guac. So that was my go-to.
Green salsa guy. All right.
Yep.
All right. A little unique.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they had that Chiptopia promotion going on where it's like if you got 12 or 11 burritos per month for 3 months straight, you won catering?
Okay. No, I don't remember that one. No.
Yeah, so I did that. And
Yeah.
apparently I was the first person to actually get that 12 burrito mark for 3 months in a row straight mark. So they ended up
No
sending
way.
me like
Wow.
40 something burrito cards and a bunch of those like 4-person all you can eat. So like
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I would just take those cards and I would just like load up like quadruple meat. And the
Yeah. Oh
most expensive
yeah.
one I got was like $28. I'll never forget. But like, dude, the looks that they give you when you put those
Yeah.
orders in, they're like, yo, this dude's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
am.
Well, they know they have to wrap that up with the quadruple meat on that, so that's no easy task for them to do that. So we feel for them a little bit.
Awesome. Well, let's hop on over to your journey and I'm just so impressed, and I've always been impressed about your dedication to this sport, starting at such a young age and going back to when you were a kid. I mean, both of us haven't grown up along the Jersey Shore, just being a train ride away from Madison Square Garden. You got to go to a lot of Ranger games and see some of your favorite players play, but how much of an influence was that on you as a kid?
For sure. For me and my brothers, it kind of just started with my dad. So he was born in Montreal, and he was only lived there for like 6 months of the first 6 months of his life. And his dad worked for like the Bank of Montreal and then American Express. So he was in New Jersey for a bit, and then in Holland growing up. And his dad always used to kind of kid with my dad. So his son would be like, you know what, since you're the Canadian of the family, it's your obligation to be a hockey fan. So my dad just ended up loving the sport and had a huge passion for it. So he just introduced me and my brothers to it at a young age, and we shared that same love for it. So it kind of started with that and sort of snowballed itself into where we're all at now.
And there's no part of you that want to root for the Devils because growing up, that's who's winning all the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely a few tough years growing up as a Rangers fan and hearing about it from especially again growing up where we grew up. It's kind of split between Rangers and Devils, maybe a few Islander fans sprinkled in, and then when you get a little bit further south, obviously some more of the Flyer fans. But yeah, there was a few Devils Stanley Cups in there. Obviously, the one Rangers won, but I was really young for that. But yeah, it was definitely lots of chirping going back and forth with all that with between the Devils and Rangers fans, especially.
And it's kind of crazy how you ended up on the Flyers.
Definitely, I mean, to be honest, the one team I think that that growing up that I know that used to make my dad's blood boil that we were watching was watching the Flyers games. There was always some fierce games between the Flyers and the kind of tough style of hockey that they played against the Rangers and stuff like that. So again, obviously, once I got drafted, that kind of all went by the wayside for my especially for my dad and stuff, and he got to meet a lot of former players that he would have grown up watching and. So that was always pretty funny for me to always kind of see him meet some of those guys that he grew up maybe rooting against when he was a big Rangers fan. So yeah, I definitely got a kick out of that.
So here you have your father, who's a huge hockey fan, and then we're surrounded by these three NHL teams that you could go to a Ranger game on the train, a Devils game on the train as well, or I guess driving back then to the Meadowlands. Then also too being so close to Philadelphia. What age did you know that you wanted to play hockey?
Well, as a professionally, I guess you mean like is that or just in general with playing hockey?
Yeah, just in general, because I remember when you were like real young, you were really good. And I'll never forget, we were at Thompson Middle School and Mr. Anderson was holding baseball tryouts, and I was in the infield and you're in the outfield. And I remember he hit a ball to you and you're supposed and out in left field and you're supposed to throw it to
uh,
second base. And
uh,
you just like airmailed it over the cutoff
yeah.
man, over the second baseman, over my head. I was at first base. I was like, dude, this guy's got a great arm, but I know he's a hockey player, so
Yeah,
maybe that is
yeah,
his sport over
yeah.
baseball,
No,
but it worked out pretty
uh,
well.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely dabbled with a few other sports when I was through like middle school, pretty much. Like I played some, obviously a lot of baseball, and some soccer too, but nothing that really that kind of caught my interest and attention like hockey did. So even though I did get a break to play those other sports and stuff like that, I was always going to Normandy Park to play outside there, roller hockey with my buddies and stuff like that, or whether it's playing in my driveway with my brothers growing up or with my dad and stuff like that. So it just always was something we loved to do, and yeah, we ended up having a lot of my close friends still to this day that we would play with in some of those games like that. And we had a ton of fun where be like every day after school we'd pretty much hustle over to Normandy and we'd play for a few hours until it got dark. And I have some great memories doing that growing up.
I saw that there's that great article by NHL.com just about how you used to play at Navesink River Country Club in the outdoor rink.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a cool memory that you have back at home. And that's a pretty easy area to drive by. So everybody knows that entire area. But for all of the viewers and listeners, I mentioned at the top of the show, but James in Lake Tahoe, where they're doing the NHL outdoor games. And that's just such a cool experience that you got to have as a kid in Middletown. And now you get to do it
Yeah.
as a professional playing out there. And I'm sure that a lot of people from the Jersey Shore want to see you put the puck in the back of the net tomorrow.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like that again, that playing at Navasink too, and growing up where we grew up, there is not a ton of opportunities to play outside, just because again, obviously, it doesn't really get crazy cold enough where you can skate on the Navasink River, skate on maybe you can skate on some ponds like every few years, but your only consistent places to play outside would be a place like that. So I played there for a few years growing up. Always would go do like clinics and stuff like that, skating there. So that was super cool. And then even now to this day, actually, so this kind of started, I want to say like maybe like 10, 12 years ago, where my dad kind of organized with a bunch of my buddies and my brother's buddies and a couple of Mike Reynolds, who was our old coach at CBA. So he organized this game that we would play at pretty much either every Christmas Eve or sometimes we do it on Christmas morning. And that, again, for me, I don't get a ton of chances to come back home to Middletown. So it would be a good chance for me to connect with some of my old buddies and have some fun out there and mix it up a little bit. So yeah, I have some good memories playing outdoors there. And now this game out here, this will be my seventh outdoor game in the NHL. So it's again, they're always kind of unique and fun. And this one being out here in Lake Tahoe in a way different setting where we're on a golf course versus like a football stadium or a baseball stadium, something like that.
You mentioned CBA a few times, and you went there for 2 years, and can you just share with us that one story about how you got home from school one day and your father had left a note on your wall inside your bedroom? It's a great story, and I know that stuck with you for so long, but just take us back to that day where you got home from CBA, get off the bus, and go into your room, and you find a note from your father.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That was kind of the time where, again, I'd always been. I was lucky enough to play for coaches growing up that always kind of stressed the importance of kind of like hard work and things like that. So I think I remember this was like right after, I want to say, the hockey season, my freshman year. And as far as what I wanted to get out of hockey, like again, I wanted to be able to play in college and things like that. And it's, you need to have some direction and some structure and some guidance for that. So I remember this quote my dad put on the wall was, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And I don't think it was necessarily because I wasn't like doing anything to prepare, but I think he really wanted to hammer home the importance of being kind of proactive and being diligent about all these different things you can do to continue to get better, just because that's kind of the name of the game for anything that you want to do in life. I think you have to always try to find a way to put the time in to evolve, to get better at the aspects of your craft that maybe you aren't as good at, or to keep improving the things you are good at. I think there's all these different things you need to continue to do. So I think that really kind of hammered home and kind of drilled that into my head a little bit more, and definitely thankful for that. I think that's definitely kind of led me on the journey over the course of that point moving forward, as far as how curious I've been about just finding different ways to improve, and just to kind of hone my craft year in and year out.
Dude, that just gave me the chills. That was wow, man. Everybody who's listening to this, I'm sure, is fired up right now, but that was awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah.
So just that one note, it's just crazy how much of a butterfly effect it could have on you. And it's obvious that it worked. But did you keep that note up on your wall for a while after that, or like did you save it, or because I'm very big on like visuals and just always having reminders around the house, whether it is like a note or like a picture that you put up on the wall,
Yeah,
just a reminder of your goals.
you know what? It was up on my wall in my bedroom for years. And again, my parents usually say pretty much everything. Like if people saw my room that I grew up in now, like it literally looks like I haven't left. Like it's all the same stuff up. That note though, I'm not sure. I gotta talk to my parents about that, where it might be, because there's been over the last couple of years where things have gotten a little more organized. So it's got to be somewhere. But for me, the funniest part about that is just knowing how my dad's lack of like tech savviness. Like he printed this thing out on just like a piece of computer paper, put it like horizontally. So I can't imagine like how many tries through trial and error on Microsoft Word it took him before he was able to print this thing out and get it up there. So I got to ask my mom about that. That might be a pretty funny story, but no, yeah, it's definitely, it was a good way to kind of ingrain that into my head for sure.
Awesome. Well, it worked really well. And one thing that I just always admire about you is that you spent a couple years at CBA and then you took that leap of faith. I know you mentioned about like how serious you were with what you want to do and just determined and to getting better in certain areas. You took that leap of faith of just by leaving Christian Brothers Academy in New Jersey and going out to Ann Arbor, Michigan. How hard of a decision was that for you, or was it easy because you knew that you'd be taking that next step to make you that much better? Or like, was it hard because you'd be leaving all your friends behind?
Yeah, there was definitely that aspect of it too. Um, I think for me, I'm just talking through these decisions. Another thing that we've kind of in our family we've always talked about is not having any regrets. So if this is something I really wanted to pursue and be a hockey player and see where that can take me, like this seemed to be the best route to really give myself the best chance to kind of maximize my potential and things like that. So that kind of brings me back. So I have an uncle, Alonia, who again he coached for years in Division One college basketball. Was an assistant coach at some pretty big time schools, and now he does some stuff locally with girls high school basketball in the Shore area. But I remember the two things that he told me too before I left is, and don't. And he's got a very funny way of telling stories, but he's like don't kid yourself. Every kid who picks up a hockey stick when they're a little kid, they want to play in the NHL. So if you think that's your dream, like you shouldn't feel like bad about that. Like that you should go for this. And then he's like, you know what, if it was easy, everyone and their mother would be out there doing it. So just don't forget that there's going to be some tough days ahead, and it's gonna be again quite a journey and things like that. So I think that really kind of those sorts of I was lucky to get some, I felt like, good advice about these sorts of things, just to realize that these things are just a step along the journey of ultimately where I wanted to get to. And again, obviously, it was some good opportunities to have, but I just really needed to make sure that I took advantage of the resources of these different places that I was able to go to try to grow my game.
That's so awesome. Yeah, like I said before, I just always admired the fact that you were able to do that, make that decision. Because I think a lot of people would kind of be maybe scared or nervous to do that. But yeah, 2 years at CBA, and then you go to the USA hockey team development program. You crush it there. And then next thing you know, you're playing at UNH. You crush it there. And you also spent 2 years at UNH too, right?
Yep, 2 years at UNH too. Yep,
Cool. So
yep,
you got this like 2 year thing going.
yep, yep. Yeah, definitely. That was not really planned out. Like, well, the U.S. program is a 2 year program, so that was kind of was what it was before then. And then after that, I don't know, it just kind of was taking it year by year as far as what was going to be the next steps of my journey through hockey and life and things like that. And after playing 2 years at UNH, it just felt like it was the right time to move on for the next challenge and things like that. So that's kind of how those 2 years sort of how it ended up being 2 years, I should say.
That's right. So James had gotten drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers second overall in the 2007 NHL draft, right behind Patrick Kane. You guys were the first Americans back to back.
Yeah, first Americans to be picked 1 and 2. I
It's
don't think it's
amazing.
happened since then too. So that's definitely a cool little accomplishment. And again, you see how far USA Hockey has come over the years, and you see all the kind of the growth and just the high end players that have come out of the US, particularly out of the NTDP. It's pretty impressive to see. So to be kind of a small part of that history of that, and for us being able to be picked 1-2 like that is definitely a pretty cool thing to be able to look back on when my career is over at some point.
You had a really good story about draft night when a bunch of your buddies were in the stands.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. So like, just for that stuff too, like I've been lucky just for the support I've gotten from my close friend group. A lot of Middletown guys, a bunch of CBA guys mixed in there, and they've been there for some awesome milestones in my career. So they were there for the draft. They went up to the World Under 20 Championships in Ottawa. They came to my first NHL game. So these guys have been back to CBA even. They'd come to all the games then. So like, again, they've been there for me every step of the way. But for the story at the draft, so the GM of each team usually announces each pick in hockey's draft. So it was actually the GM of the Blackhawks. So like, it's funny, even looking back to the video on this day, like it's very clear what happens. But so he's up there, he's doing his whole spiel, he's thanking the city of Columbus for hosting the draft, and he goes, with the first overall pick, the Chicago Blackhawks are proud to select, and he takes a pause. And one of my buddies just screams out, he's like, "Yeah, and you're going to pick Reamer." And he like stops. And I don't know, it sounds like he heard, or it looks like he heard them. And he literally looks like he's staring right to where they're sitting at. And it like takes that pause and he goes, "Patrick Kane of the London Knights," or whatever it was. And I always get a good kick out of that, just because, again, that was, they definitely would make their presence known at all these events over the years. So they've got some good stories on some of these road trips that they've taken. And I've definitely really appreciated all their support, and been able to share this journey with them.
What's so awesome about that, just you and your set of friends from home, is just that you guys have been able to stay in touch this entire time. You never got too big league on them. Just the connection that you guys have had over such a long period of time is it's just so awesome. And what would you say to a young stud who gets drafted really high, or all of a sudden he's a professional athlete and he kind of loses sight of things? Like, what would you say to them, or somebody who gets fame overnight, in terms of like staying grounded, because you've done such a great job of that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think just having that good support system is so important. I know for me, it's just like people that can keep you in check, so that you don't get kind of too far ahead of yourself. But I think, again, the big thing for me is just the things that I've been able to accomplish so far in my career, and things that I've been able to accomplish in my life. Like, your friends and your kind of family are a huge part of that. Like, they make you into the person you are today. And again, you grow over the years, and they're a big part of all that. So I would say that's again for me. It was just sharing all that stuff. It makes it more that much more fun. Like it's awesome. I'm lucky to say that. Like again, I had my first NHL game was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's like a 15-hour drive, I think, from where we grew up. So it's like having like 6 or 7 buddies then driving down to go watch that game, like no questions asked. It's like that's pretty cool. So I'm lucky to have friends that I've been able to share all this stuff with, and we've been able to make a lot of great memories with all these different things over the years. Again, it used to be a thing too. Now, speaking of these outdoor games, it was like maybe the first 3 or 4 in my career. Like the guy that was again their thing where we they'd make a trip of it every single year. So it was always fun to be able to share. Like again, that's all these cool moments are cool and everything, but it's makes it that much better when you have people that are important you there to share with them.
So how much was your phone blowing up then after you scored your first NHL goal when you split the D?
Yeah, no, exactly. That was a pretty special one too. It took me, I think, like 8 or 9 games to get it. So I can't remember who was in attendance for that. Maybe a couple of them, just because again we're in Philly, and I had a few buddies that close buddies that were at Villanova, so they'd come to a ton of games back then, which was super fun. But yeah, definitely it was a great memory I'll never forget, and yeah, it was an unbelievable feeling.
Again, I just love the fact that you've just been able to keep in touch with so many people from home, stay so grounded, and just been such a great role model for people. Because a lot of people from where we're from in Middletown, there's a sense of pride, especially being from the Jersey Shore, and the fact that you could represent that area in the NHL is awesome. And even myself too, like anytime that I do something that's on television or whatever it may be, I always try to like I don't think that I'm doing this for myself or this is something that I accomplish. I almost feel like this is something for everybody, all of our friends at home, like
Yep,
that we could share these moments with. And it's so
hundred
awesome that you've
percent.
been
Yeah.
able to share those moments with so many people.
No, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, again, just getting to share all these special things over the years has just been so awesome. And I truly believe, like I mentioned before, it's like you are a product of kind of your environment that you grow up in, and your friends that you surround yourself in, and your family that you grow up with, and stuff like that. And I'm lucky to have a great support system from where we're from, and yeah, it's been again, I'm super blessed for all that.
All right. So I know that you were excited when you got the chance to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, leaving Philadelphia after a few seasons. So excited that you drove up there, didn't you?
Yep, yep, yep.
Right? All right. So tell us.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. Yep,
Yeah.
we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Share
yeah,
that story with us.
yeah. No, so that was an interesting transition over the course of my career. I think just looking back, so my first kind of 3 professional seasons in Philly, they were kind of a mixed bag where it didn't maybe go as well as I'd wanted it to, and professional sports things sort of happened. So I was traded right before the last NHL lockout to Toronto, and was super excited just about the new opportunity and just getting a chance to kind of go somewhere with a little bit more of a clean slate and hopefully get a chance to kind of spread my wings a little bit more as a player. And yeah, I remember driving up there right before the lockout were to happen, and yeah, I was super excited to get there, get settled. Like I'm just getting over the border, and I'm like, okay, I'm so close now. I'm only another hour or so away. So I remember getting over the border, and I'm driving pretty quick, and I'm getting pulled over. I'm like, I literally can see like the border crossing like right behind me. So I'm like, this is like unbelievable timing. Like, is this an omen? Like, what is going on here? This can't be good. So I get pulled over. The officers just ask for the license and whatever registration. So I hand that over to him, and he takes a quick peek at it, and he's like, "Oh, JVR." He's like, "We're pumped to have you up here. Best of luck to you this season." So I'm like, just like that was like the first time that ever really happened to me before. So I was like, like this is gonna be a totally different animal playing up here. But again, it was incredible. Just that was kind of my first introduction to the firsthand to the passion of the Leaf fans and stuff like that. And definitely something I've cherished over the course of my time there, and certainly my career.
And you played very well up there. A couple times you scored 30 goals and touched 30 goals at times as well too. And just the fact that you grew up going to Madison Square Garden and now you're playing hockey games in Toronto. Those are two of the best places that you could possibly see a hockey game. Did you ever have any like sort of like pinch me moment? Like, what's going on? Like, have you ever had any sort of moment where you have to kind of like take a step back and be like, damn, this is really cool.
No, for sure. I remember, like, right before, I had gone up there too, like, it's one of those things where you can have all the people tell you it, but until you experience it for yourself the first time, like, you can't really explain it until you go through it yourself. But I had a former teammate, Jody Shelley, who just was like, you're gonna love it up there." Like, they love hockey, in Toronto, and it just Leaf Nation is literally everywhere. So like, they travel so well for the team, and you just gotta embrace that and enjoy all of that. And he couldn't have been more right. I think just, again, just playing on a stage like that, Saturday night hockey in Toronto and Hockey Night in Canada, it's just like legendary. And to be able to play in a bunch of those games like that, and just kind of, again, it was a little bit, our team had a little bit of a roller coaster ride over my time there, but again, wouldn't have changed those experiences for anything, and made a lot of great friendships, on the ice and on the team and in the organization, and also just in the city up there. So it was, just a tremendous experience overall for me. And when I got there, I got there as a kind of a young kid, and when I had left, that was, again, you kind of think you have your life a little more figured out. So it's kind of funny that growing up you do, over that sort of period of your life from when you're 23 to 29. So, just really, just looking back on those years, I'll always cherish them, and hold them pretty dearly.
And how often did you get a chance to have family and friends up there?
That was another thing that was great too. My parents, they'd be up there all the time for games, and drive making that drive up there, and they were there all the time. And then again, I'd always have, different buddies coming up to check it out too. So, again, like I said, I've the support system. It doesn't really matter how far away or where I've been. They've always found a way to kind of come and support me over the years.
Yeah, when we were up there for the wedding, I'll never forget. We were DMing back and forth, and you're like, "Hey, man, it's hockey night in Canada. Like, check this off the bucket list." And we linked up there, and it was just so awesome. We were just so
Yeah.
psyched to see you play in person. And then I think it was around that same time, me and Becca, we were watching a movie, and like, it was the one with Paul Rudd. This is
Yep.
40,
Yep.
and we were sitting
Yep.
there, and like, we both like looked at each other on the couch. You're like,
Uh,
"Dude, that was James." But that was cool too. So
yeah.
around that time when you were in Toronto, that was also when you got the movie cameo.
Yep, yeah, the timing of that was pretty funny. So that was, I think, like, I wanna say they filmed that, like, my last year in Philly. So they
Okay.
wanted a hockey player without any teeth for that one, and one of my teammates, former teammates, who's now actually the assistant coach for us in Philly, Ian Laperriere, he fits that, bill to a T as far as that. So, it was him, Matt Carl, Scotty Hartnell, and myself, that were able to go out there for that movie. And, it was one of those things, like, cross it off the bucket list. Like, never would I have in a million years ever have expected to be able to experience something like that. And, that was, again, just an awesome experience. And even to this day, like, it's one of those movies that for whatever reason always seems to be on every once in a while for whatever reason. And, I'll get texts every once in a while like, "Hey, like, kind of a weird question, but, were you in this movie?" Yeah, so always get a kick out of that, which is pretty good.
And did anybody ever comment on any of your photo shoots in nice suits? We've seen some style that you've pulled off pretty
Uh,
well. You can rock a suit pretty well. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, no, that was another great thing about, just playing in Toronto, is just your world kind of opens up to all these different sorts of experiences, just because, again, just being a Maple Leaf carries, carries a little bit of weight up there. So that's, again, something I remember going up there not really knowing much about, like, fashion and things like that, and suits. It was always just more like, "Ah, I've got to wear a suit to a game," like, whatever. And then, like, kind of when I got up there and met some people, I'll give them a shout out at a Garrison Bespoke. That was the tailor that kind of, uh, opened my eyes to, some style, especially with suits. And now that's one of my favorite things, is wearing a nice suit that fits well, and whatever. And actually, I've even, become involved with a suit company, that's probably 6 years old now. So it's like Athletic Fit Suits, State and Liberty. So I was a
Wow.
small investor in that too. So it's kind of, again, really like, again, all these different things going back to Toronto, how it kind of opened my eyes to lots of different, sort of interests and stuff like that. So I'm lucky to being able to have been able to play there, and kind of have all these different things, come across your plate.
So you eventually leave Toronto. You go back to Philadelphia. You sign a contract with them. first sticking on the style side, who out of all your teammates do you think has the best style?
On our team here, I would say for especially for like suits, I would go Nolan Patrick. Like he's got some good ones, like a little bit like outside the box. Likes to push the limits a little bit. So he's got some good style. So I'll give him the props for that one.
All right, because I'll share this story with you because I'll never forget when we were waiting to meet up at the end of the game up in Toronto. This dude
Yeah.
walks by, and I'm like, "Man, that is a sharp suit." And I told Becca, and like usually I'll get like a lot of compliments on suits that I wear,
uh,
and I kept on telling her, I was like, "No, that's a really nice suit." Could you guess who it was?
I can't. I'm trying. Was it? I'm trying to remember who it would have been. Was it someone on my team in Toronto then, or who was it?
Yeah, it was Claude Giroux.
Ah, okay, okay. He's
Dude,
got some
yo,
good ones too.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
He
He's
walked
got some
by. I'm
good
like,
ones.
dude, this guy just played a
Yeah.
game, and he's looking sharp.
Yeah, I believe the saying is look good, feel good, play good. So you gotta take care of that first to get yourself in that right frame of mind to go out there and do your job. So yeah, it's you gotta take care of business.
Hey, it's worked perfectly for you. And even in your year 12 post on Instagram, you had posted a picture of you and a couple of your teammates in your suits. Was that a salmon color suit? What was that? Looked pretty
So
good.
that was
It was
again that
sharp. I'll
was
tell you that.
so that was with the State and Liberty guys now. So like I
Okay.
had asked them to kind of make me something for special for the start of the season, and there's this like burnt orange fabric that they had, and yeah, they hooked it up nice. So it turned out pretty sharp. So definitely give some props there.
All right. So we've talked a lot about hockey and just about how you've been playing since such a young age and just been always so dedicated. You've had such a foundation of support from your friends, and you've been in the league for over 10 years. That's remarkably impressive. It's hard to do in any sport. And now you're back here in Philadelphia. At the time of this interview in 2021, you're off to one of the hottest starts in your career. And even on a bigger scale for you personally, this has been such a great year for you family wise. You just welcomed
Yep.
your first child into the family, yourself and Lauren had a beautiful baby, Scarlett. How's
Yep.
it been being a dad and also too juggling both your professional career and being a father as well?
Yeah, you know what? I think just looking back at again, we're dealing with everything through the pandemic and stuff like that. And I think, to be honest, that was a real blessing in disguise because Scarlett was born right in the middle of that. And I think having all that extra time at home during all that, and obviously the whole world being on pause for a bit there, I think it really allowed me to be a lot more present day to day and not necessarily having to learn on the fly how to juggle kind of the career and the family and stuff like that. So I was able to be perfectly just there and mentally there and everything like that, just to enjoy those first couple months of being a dad. And you kind of learn over the course of that a little bit, just to try to find that proper balance of doing what it takes to be a successful player and have a successful career, but also making sure you're taking care of things at home and being there for your family and stuff like that. So certainly with some of the travel, especially now that we have to do it, definitely is challenging for the families and stuff like that. But you know, I think again, just getting that extra time that was able to have at home during the start of all the COVID stuff, I think that was just great for me to just be able to really fully jump in, all hands on deck as far as just being a dad.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it works out timing wise, right? Because if it was a regular season, you obviously not have been able to spend those moments and the time with your family. So it's just so special and just so happy for you. And it's just been so awesome to see you grow as just like a young kid at Thompson Middle School and have such a successful career. And now you're an awesome husband, an awesome father. You're building a family of your own. And your family, if they're going to be anything like the way that you were raised with your great parents and brothers, I'm sure it's going to be an awesome loving family. So just so happy for you.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Like I said, to grow up with the support system and family and friends that I've had over the years to just help me kind of grow into the person that I am today. And that's something that you want to try to pass along to your own children, is just having that surrounding yourself with good people and being able to live a great life that way.
Does it give you that extra push when you show up to the rink every day? And also too, you've been playing for 10 plus years, so you got to at least make it another 10 so then Scarlett can
Yeah.
show up to one of the games in one of your jerseys.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've gotten her a couple jerseys already, so that's going to be fun for us to get Scarlet. I know a lot of guys bringing their kids down towards the corner for warm-ups and stuff, so that they can see their dads in a little bit different light and with all their gear on and stuff like that, getting ready to go play. So I'll be very very interested to see Scarlett's reaction during all that, if she'll be able to piece any of that together at this young age, or how that'll all go, if she'll get scared being down there or what's going on. But that'll definitely be something I'm looking forward to sharing with her.
Do you see yourself playing for at least another 10 years? I mean, I don't think it's like too much out of the question, but the way that you've been able to take care of yourself, you're very mindful. And also, too, just again, like having a newborn, just kind of giving you that like extra jolt. Do you feel like any sort of like rejuvenated energy? And you have been so consistent so long on
Yeah.
the stat sheet and everything. So,
Yeah, I think for me, it's just something that I just love. I don't know if that makes me a hockey nerd or whatever, but I love the game and I love the process of everything that comes with it. So I love the preparation and the grind of trying to find different ways to improve yourself and trying to find ways to get just a little bit better every year and reinvent yourself and whatever you may need to do to continue to find that longevity and that consistency. So I think again with that stuff, I want to continue to push the envelope for all that thing. So again, it's a fine line between all that. Like obviously, you got to stay in the here and now and the day to day for everything. Just and you don't want to take anything for granted, but certainly as much as I love the game and love everything that comes with it, I want to try to play for as long as I can. So I guess we'll kind of see how that all shakes itself out. But I definitely have the passion and the drive for it to just want to continue to do this as long as I'm able to.
hell yeah.
Exactly.
So one thing that you said is just like finding new ways to get better and to keep yourself in shape. One of the things that you're big on is the breathing trend that's
Yep.
going on right now, which Men's Health had ranked it the number one fitness trend for 2021. How much has that helped you both on and off the ice? And just, I guess, share your involvement with the Mind Strong project? Because I've seen from a couple guys who I know and girls in the sports world getting onto it more and more.
Yeah, for sure. I think just kind of looking back at these sorts of things a little more globally is just like I'm kind of naturally just always been curious in regards to like performance and like how do I make my body feel a little bit better? How do I work on this to get a little bit better at this on the ice and continue to expand your game? So whether that's working with different kind of performance coaches as far as like body coaches or treatment people, strength coaches, skills coaches on the ice, like I'm open to trying and hearing all different perspectives. So as far as like incorporating breathing into my training, that was definitely kind of interesting. That started a few years ago. I want to say maybe 3, 4 years ago. So I have a really good buddy of mine, Harvey Martin, who played professional baseball for a few years and ended up getting hurt and kind of again was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next and has a few other different sort of things in his background and psychology and things like that. And he was just kind of again learning about things with the breath and just me being buddies with him. We had chatted about it and he was kind of telling me, okay, like you got to try this, you got to try this. And I kind of, at first I'm like, okay, like I know how to breathe, man. Like I'm a human being, right? You'd think like you kind of almost take it for granted. But after the first time he showed me some things, I was pretty blown away by just the impact of it and just how by being mindful of it and how to breathe in certain different situations and how to use your breath to get yourself ready to play a game, how to use your breath to recover after a game, how to use your breath during a game to help you recover faster in between shifts, like all these different things that you can do. And then you incorporate some of that with some heat with the sauna and in the cold tub or the cold plunge sort of things. And there's all these different sorts of aspects you can use it in your training. And again, that was kind of how I became exposed to all this stuff. And just over the years, he's learned a ton about just more and more and expanded his knowledge on how it all ties into literally everything that we do with the breath. As a human, like everything that you do in your life is surrounded by that. So again, he's taught me a lot about that over the years, and definitely it's been a good tool for me to use as I've continued to advance my career.
So for everybody listening and watching, what is one thing that they could do easy? Like, can we do one right now? Like a quick breathing strategy or technique or tactic that's useful, like a 30-second,
Yeah.
1 minute one?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing, and this is the one that's been the most impactful for me, is just again just being mindful of it, and for me, it's just always again, obviously, if you're competing and stuff like that, you want to be just focused on whether you're playing a sport or whatever you're doing. If you're exercising, whatever, like you want to kind of just let it fly. But as far as like how you're recovering, like breathing in and out through your nose and just being in that more parasympathetic state, that recovery state, is something that you want to be more focused on. So I would say once I became kind of mindful of that, because like again, you notice like when you get really tired and you start like really huffing and puffing and stuff like that, it's like okay, you're really kind of in through your mouth. But if you can really train yourself to start to be more mindful of that and really try to get yourself back to breathing in and out through your nose, especially as you recover, again for us in between shifts or whatever, as hockey, it's huge. It just helps you kind of again stay more energized and fresher throughout a game. And I think again that was like the biggest impact for me. Obviously, there's lots of other more detailed things you can get into, but I think just being mindful of nasal breathing, I think again was one of the first things that I learned, and I think it's been one of the biggest things I've learned as far as how incorporating the breath stuff.
Wow, interesting. I don't want to do this.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to get a session dialed up for us after this, and we can dive into it a little bit more. But it's powerful stuff.
I want to get to a point where I can lay in the snow like you were and just be completely
Yeah.
chill, not cold,
Yeah.
not whatever. Get the whole
Yeah.
breathing thing down because that looks like it's hard to do, but obviously it
Yeah.
works.
No, for sure. And it's actually been kind of funny this year. So like some of it again, because like if you're huffing, like doing some of the different protocols, like you kind of look a little bit wacky doing them around the rink. So like over the last like couple of years, I've kind of done them a little more in private. But this year we had a few guys come back to the team who had, I guess, maybe seen some stuff about Wim Hof and stuff like that. So they were learning about the breath and the cold exposure. So we actually have a group of us that are thinking about kind of jaunting over to Lake Tahoe, and it's pretty chilly, obviously in the lake right now, but going for a little plunge and a little sort of refresh the body and the mind. So it's been interesting to see,
Dude.
like you mentioned, how the breath work and stuff has definitely caught on, and you're starting to hear more and more people using it and learning more about it.
All right, cool. So here we go. So say you're working, right? We got a lot of people who are employees at marketing firms or business
Yeah,
finance, and they're about to hop on a Zoom in like 10 minutes, and they got to get their
yeah,
breathing down. Or if you're
yeah,
in the car and you're going to a huge family party, and you're like, all right, I gotta like chill out before I take that like last breath before going in there. What's something
yeah.
that anybody can do who's listening to this, or maybe like do like literally like right now for like a quick like 15-second, 30-second thing?
Yeah, well, for again, I think again, just going back to the nasal breathing, just to get you kind of centered and things like that. For me, it's just closing my eyes, just kind of being a little bit present, belly breathing, and doing it in and out through your nose. I think that's just kind of the way to really start to again. It's kind of funny with that. Like when you first start doing it, it's you think it'd be easy, but it's your mind starts kind of going everywhere. But once you kind of practice it a bit more, it's a lot easier to become more present with it, and you really start to feel a lot more centered and a lot more in the moment. So I think that would be the biggest one. I think just doing that. Again, there's so many different things now out there where you can have different kind of meditation sort of mixes that you can listen to with your eyes closed to really just kind of bring yourself right in the present. Or again, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with it. So I would say those are just the biggest things: is being mindful of that, nasal breathing, a little bit of the belly breathing, and that for me definitely helps. I do that before usually every game.
Dude, I'm stoked. I can't wait to try this.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Sweet. Awesome. So before we get into the bonus round, I want to ask, what would be your best piece of advice to a lot of the listeners out there and the viewers who want to do something, and like maybe one year they have a great year, the next year they have a bad year, and they're thinking about giving up? What would you say to them? Because again, whether it's on the stat sheet or just your entire career from as a young kid up until right now and moving forward, you've just been able to stay so consistent. And that's what this podcast is about, just finding success through consistency. And you've done a great job with that.
Yep, I would say just again, just if you have the passion for something, I think just trusting the process of that and having that process for yourself and finding what works as far as staying curious. And again, for me, it's pretty much everything in my life that I do is to try to find an edge to be a little bit better hockey player. So for me, it's just having that curiousness, and that's been a big part of my process. And it's just helped me, I think, just adapt and evolve as a player, and just make these subtle improvements in different areas. So I think that would be the biggest thing, is just stick with the process of that, and just again, just try to take it one day at a time as you can. I know it's pretty cliched and everyone says that, but those are looking at all sports. I mean, there's a lot of guys I admire. You look at a guy like Tom Brady or Steph Curry or guys like that, or Sidney Crosby or a Patrick Kane. They're literally going to, they want to be the best they can be at what they do. So they're approaching every day like that. So if they have a practice that day, they're going to make sure they get the most out of that practice and find a way to, again, get a little bit better, or do something, or stay sharp in this skill or whatever. So I think just staying mindful of that and being present with that process and taking it one day at a time like that. And I think you really start to maximize your potential. And again, you can kind of go from there.
Dude, James, that was awesome. And I'm sure everybody at home listening again is fired up, motivated, super appreciative of your time. And I'm so happy that we were able to do this CBA Connect for the podcast, Keep Swinging.
Yep.
And I want everybody to be able to keep in touch with you. So what is the best way for everybody to follow you on social media?
Instagram, it's J Van Riemsdyk, at J Van Riemsdyk, and then my Twitter, JV Reamer 21. So yeah, those two spots are the places to go.
Awesome. So I'll give you guys a little teaser, but you'll see some cool style shots, some fun breathing photos, and then hopefully some family photos in the near future. But dude, James, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it, brother.
All righty. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching that episode of Keep Swing. Man, we have so many more awesome guests on the way, and I don't want you to miss any of it. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, feel free to go back and watch past episodes. And again, if you subscribe to the channel, that is the best way to find out who we are going to have on the show next. And if there's a guest that you want on the show, I will do all that I can to have him or her come on. So please leave a comment. Let me know who you want to see on Keep Swinging coming up. And also, too, feel free to leave a comment what you thought about the episode in the comment section below. Give it a like. And if you head over to Instagram, I'll be posting clips from all these interviews. Just a little daily inspiration. And there you can interact with me as well. Until then, have an awesome day and keep swinging.